Hello everyone, and welcome to part 7 of Communication Skills Training Lectures. For many people, one of the toughest topics to deal with is child abuse. While all of the topics we cover are difficult, the reason why people view this lecture to be so tough is the innocence of children. Regardless of whether you are talking to a person who was abused as a child or is a child who is being abused, it is important to remain neutral and non-judgmental. Here's an outline of types of child abuse. Child abuse can be physical, emotional, or psychological. It can be in the form of neglect, or it can happen in the form of sexual abuse. Physical. Physical abuse refers to any form of intentional violence in which a child receives pain. Some identifying features of child abuse might include bruises, cuts, burns, wounds, broken bones, and/or sore muscles. Physical child abuse usually comes from an authority figure and tends to be someone who knows the child. Children can play rough and might take more physical risks, which might result in some injuries that could be associated with child abuse. A victim of child abuse might be told to be quiet about their abuse or to blame themselves by the authority figure, which can make it even harder to identify. Because there's no physical evidence, emotional or psychological abuse is the hardest form of abuse to report or prove. Besides strong critical statements, psychological abuse can also include yelling frequently, withholding kindness or affection, prolonged periods of silence, and harsh jokes, to name a few examples. Like any type of abuse, there may be degrees in severity, but the actions still constitute abuse. All behaviors toward children that cause mental anguish or deficits are considered abuse. It is also termed emotional abuse because damage caused to one's mental health state inevitably creates emotional damage. Neglect. Neglect is defined as the continual unavailability to provide for a child's basic needs, which include food, shelter, medical or health, and education. Neglect is commonly associated with the caregiver having a form of addiction which can preoccupy their priority over the welfare of the child. Neglect can also be associated with some religious or cultural beliefs which do not allow the child to receive the care that they need, this usually is medically based. Sexual abuse can be described as when someone touches a child in a sexual way or commits a sexual act with him or her. They have committed sexual abuse. This is usually identified as molestation or rape. Skills. It's not always easy to know what to say when someone tells you they've been sexually assaulted. For a survivor, disclosing to someone they care about can be very difficult, so it is important to be as supportive and non-judgmental as possible. Sometimes support means providing resources, such as how to reach the National Sexual Assault Hotline or seek medical attention. But often, listening is the best way to support a survivor. Here are some specific phrases that can be used. I believe you. It took a lot of courage to tell me this. It can be extremely difficult for survivors to come forward and share their story. They may feel ashamed, concerned that they won't be believed, or worried they'll be blamed. Leave out any why questions. Be careful not to interpret calmness as a sign that the event did not occur, because everyone responds to traumatic events very differently. You are not alone. I'm here to listen. Let the survivor know that you are there for them and willing to listen to their story if they're comfortable sharing it. Remind them that there are service providers who will be able to support them as they heal from the experience. I'm sorry this happened. This shouldn't have happened to you. Acknowledge that the experience has affected their life. Phrases like, this must be really tough for you, and I'm so glad you are sharing this with me, really help to communicate empathy. Please follow this link to take the quiz for this lecture, and thank you for watching.